You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment while we bring on our great Facebook community. Bear with us one moment here, gang. And we're good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, fellow football priest, and the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com, Zack Kelberman. Zack, you had a really interesting piece that ran this morning across MHH social media that kind of conveyed what James Palmer, who, of course, NFL insider, also beat reporter on the Denver Broncos beat, had to say about Drew Lock's future. And maybe there were some fans out there that were like, wait a minute, doesn't this go without saying? But as you and I discussed right before we went live, it's not that fait accompli. So explain what James Palmer reported, and we'll talk about it.
Well, he pretty much said a lot of what we've already known, but I like the things that we'll get into in a second, the details that he added to his report. He said the Broncos will be aggressive in chasing Deshaun Watson if Watson becomes available. We all knew that. They believe Watson is in a group of quarterbacks that can single-handedly change the course of the franchise. But they are not interested, failing a Watson trade, which is still, to me, unlikely. They are not interested in the second tier. And I wrote this last night before the Carson Wentz trade did go down. But the Carson Wentzes of the world, the Marcus Mariotas of the world, they don't like that group. They don't think that group is better than the quarterback they have already in Drew Lock. And what Palmer says out loud here is the same thing that Chad and I have been saying. Maybe they are encouraged, the Broncos, the brain trust, George Paton and Vic Fangio, give Locke another year considering the trajectory in which he ended the season on. He had two of his best games in the final 4 weeks of the season. He cut down on the turnovers, cut down on the bad decisions, the bad throws, and he actually looked like a quarterback that was progressing. They think Palmer reported that there's a belief in Dove Valley that if Deshaun Watson does not work out, they are fine and prepared and confident in rolling with Drew Lock as the starter for next year. And what he said there is that Drew Lock, all this outside noise, the speculation, the rumors, it's not affecting him in the least. He's in the building working out every day. He's doing what he has to do to prepare to be the starter of the team next season, no matter how many different names were floated as potential successors.
By the way, prayers up to all of our great listeners across Broncos country that are in different parts of the country being hit by these wicked winter storms that have had just different effects on different sectors of North America. If you're in Texas, you're not used to things freezing, and all of a sudden the electric power grid goes down because it doesn't have freeze protection. And a lot of people are out of power. A lot of friends of mine, a lot of colleagues that I know covering teams down there like Dallas and Houston. And so thoughts and prayers up to everybody out there. Stay warm and stay full as well. Hope you get some food storage is what I was going to say. But Zack, the whole notion of Drew Lock and what Palmer talked about as far as his work ethic off-season wise, I don't remember. Now, correct me if my memory is off here. All right. If we rewind to February of 2020, I don't remember any reports of Drew Lock being in the building. I don't remember any reports of Drew Lock being in the building after the season ended until training camp started. I think there's a reason for that. And I think it's because they're anticipating that there's not going to be OTAs again this year. And so the quarterback and the OC probably working in conjunction with each other saying, hey, let's get as much time on task together now while we can and while we can be within proximity, because we don't know when the next time we'll actually be able to get on the field is.
Well, this is why the comments that we've gotten about questioning Drew Lock's leadership and how much he loves football, it couldn't be more off base. Because say what you want about him as a passer, his mechanics, the technical work of his position, that's one thing. But how much he loves the game, how much he loves being Q of the Broncos is indisputable, Chad. And he is in the building. This is not just Palmer. I've actually read this from a few people that Lock has been working out around Dove Valley. He's staying very much in tune with the playbook because, like Palmer lays out, for once to have a repeat coordinator, to have some semblance of continuity for the first time in his career, the Broncos are taking note of that. So if they can't get Deshaun Watson, I'm not sure why Palmer lumps Matt Stafford in with Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. I disagree there. But if they can't get the big fish on the open market, potentially they are comfortable pairing Locke with a mid-tier free agent like an Andy Dalton or like a Nick Foles and giving Locke the chance to earn the franchise quarterback mantle with a full fair season, a full fair audition. And Chad, this is the same thing with respect to James Palmer. Great reporter. I love what he broke down yesterday. It's the same thing, though. We have been spouting for weeks now. Do not be surprised if Locke is the starting quarterback week 1 of next season. And the more smoke that comes out, it sort of points in that direction.
By the way, we have to give a quick shout out here to John Woolard and a happy birthday. Tuesday was his birthday. 73 years old, I'm told. And let me tell you something, John. I know you're a big fan of the show, and I know you're a big fan of the Denver Broncos. You got a son that really cares about you. And happy birthday from Mile High Huddle. Happy birthday from the Huddle Up podcast. And we hope it was a great one, my friend.
Yes, appreciate the support. Thank you so much.
Let me read this quote here from James Palmer. This kind of gives you, I think, a no-duh, kind of like, you could probably figure this out. George Paton's the new set of eyes on this whole thing, but I think the people inside the building that are carrying over from last year, this kind of gives you a feel for how they're viewing Drew Lock. Quote, obviously people in the building believe Lock had his ups and downs this past season, but they think at the end of the year, he played pretty well. He had 2 of his highest passer ratings of the season. He had 7 touchdowns to 2 picks in those final 4 games. Things started to change for him. Maybe they'd like to see him with Pat Shurmur with a full offseason for the first time, as he's always had a new offensive coordinator. They're looking at other quarterbacks, obviously, but they don't believe this affects Locke's confidence either. He's still been in the building regularly, working out, and they don't think this will affect him by any means. Now, Zach, I'm not so sure about that. I think it will affect him. The question is it going to affect him in the negative or in the positive? Is it going to be the mojo that the wind beneath his wings, so to speak, or is it going to be, the chain around his neck that sinks him, like in a mob movie where they wrap the chain and the cinder block around the dude's ankles and toss him in the lake. That we don't know if that's what this is for Locke yet, or if it's wafting him up into the stratosphere. Time will tell.
I think the implication from Palmer is it's not going to affect him negatively. And that's, we all assume he's going to use it as motivation. And I believe, like you pointed out, we did not hear, even pre-pandemic last year, Locke coming into the building to work, no matter what the offensive coordinator situation was, going from Scangarello to Pat Shurmur, he was not around the building. So I think he's using this as motivation because despite, a popular opinion or popular narrative, he loves football, he loves the Broncos, and he's working his ass off every day to be better and take hold of that job if it's offered to him, if he's allowed to.
Guys, we still have a lot more to get to tonight on the topic of Drew Lock. We got to talk about Colin Cowherd's latest hot take. I mean, this dude burned himself. He was the guy that went way out on a limb. Bold prediction this time last year. Drew Lock's going to be the 2020 pop quarterback. He's going to be this year's Lamar Jackson or this year's Patrick Mahomes, that second-year guy. Carson Wentz, too, popped in his second year. And then, of course, it's the second there was any sign of adversity, he slammed him starting in week 2 when he injured the shoulder. And we'll talk about that. Plus, it's the Mile High Mailbag. We are your football priests. Each and every week, we're here to offer you the absolution and answers to your burning Broncos questions. So get them in the chat. We'll do the best we possibly can to spread it out as democratically as possible. Get to Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, of course, our Super Chat superstars. We'll get to all that here in just a moment. First, what we have to do is say thank you to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream podcast, Manscaped. Gang, 2020, it's in the rear view. It's time to fully embrace the new year, new me mindset. And I know a lot of you have. Those of you still on the fence, what better way to kind of boost you into that mindset than Manscaped? Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. And they've helped over 2 million men around the world, not just in the States, keep their male grooming on point. So, Zach, it's like we tell everybody, if you let yourself go a little bit in 2020, quarantine, maybe a cloudy job situation, just uncertainty, now's the time to reboot with Manscaped to help you stay clean, help you stay shaved in 2021.
Yeah, uncertainty or certainty, you always want to look your best, whether it's a job interview, whether you're going about a virtual, day in your occupation, no matter what you're doing when you run to the store or when you get gas, no matter who you come in contact with or what you do in your daily life, you always want to look good and feel good. And Manscaped allows you to do that. I know you can't really see too closely right now because I have a small little box on the screen, but I use Manscaped. It's not just for below the belt. I use it on my face. I use it on below the chin. I can straighten everything up. If you like to sport a beard or somewhat of facial hair like I do, this is a must-have for what you need in your daily repertoire to keep yourself looking good and feeling good. Manscaped is the way to go. I promise you guys.
And what I like to talk about, obviously the star of the show is the Lawnmower 3.0. All right, we've talked about the bennies and features. It's the safest one out there. You're not going to nick your boys. And this thing can go in the shower, and it's got the light to illuminate the path, you know what I'm saying, for that harder to see undercarriage. But actually what I love the most about Manscaped is just how versatile their offering is. There are so many great tools that are low cost to help you get your grooming on point and just take it to another level. So head on over to manscaped.com. If you use the code HUDDLE, you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. That's code HUDDLE. And trust, your family jewels will thank you.
Yeah, get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code HUDDLE. Happy New Year to you and your family jewels.
All right, I'm just going to touch briefly. A lot of patient members of our community that are waiting, so I'm going to very quickly go through this. Have you followed the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page? If not, get on that stat, all right? If you love us, follow that page because we have some big plans for you on that page this year, 2021, facebook.com/milehighhuddlepod. All right, or just open up the app, type in Huddle Up Pod in the search. You'll find us. On Twitter, it's at Huddle Up Pod, at Mile High Huddle, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, myself, at Chad and Jensen. And then, of course, our producer who, trust me when I say this, is a great, so many of you already know this, but John is a.k.a. Buona Beast, a phenomenal Twitter follow, very engaged, he knows when Broncos news breaks, like half the time, John's the one pointing us in the direction, Zach and I, so we can get articles up and whatnot, because he's just got, he's got his feelers out there. So follow us there. And then also, gang, check out the merch store when you get some time, huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on, get a hat, get a T-shirt. Excuse me. We have some really big plans coming very, very soon, some new designs. We're working with a guy that's going to unveil some cool stuff, and it's another way to support what we're doing here. And then last thing here, gang, before we get back into the stream is we're sitting here on Thursday night. It's the last Huddle Up podcast of this week. We'll be back Sunday night, but between then, you can still catch up with Mile High Huddle and with Zach on Kelberman's Corner every Sunday at noon Mountain Time, along with Kim Becker. It's a different flavor. It's hot takes that hold water. It's not an hour-long, long-form conversation like this one is. It's a little bit different presentation, but you want in on that. All right, it's step one. It's phase one of Mile High Huddle's premium VIP video content, and right now it's only for Facebook supporters. So if you want in on that, go to facebook.com, Mile High Huddle. That is our main page, or just open it up in the app. You'll see the big blue button, or those of you that are on Facebook now, scroll to the bottom where you would type in your comment here in the chat. You'll see that green icon. Click that. You're in like Flynn, and you will be notified. You'll be buzzed when we go live with Kelberman's Corner Sunday at noon. And if you're not in a position to do those things, hey, it's all good. We're seriously just stoked to have you with us. But do these three things, all right? Subscribe, like the video. Gang, you have no idea how much that helps us. And share it, all right? If we're doing a good job for you, share it out there. Help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
And I want to grab here real quick. We got to grab Fat Cats, who dipped in, dipped out. Appreciate you, my friend. He says, if the Levante David sweepstakes don't go our way, can Justin Sternad be a better option than what we have now? I just don't know a lot about him. Zach, your thoughts?
I tend to think that you and I slightly disagree on Sternad. I don't see him for right now to be the true 3-down, future 10-year linchpin starting inside linebacker. I don't think he has that high of upside. I do think he can be a nice rotational guy to have, a good ILB3, so to say. and he could help in pass coverage, but they need that dynamic guy. They need that blue chip elite talent, whether that's Levante David or Micah Parsons or JOK. I would always rather go with the better prospect overall. And when you compare a guy like Sternad to Parsons on a football level only, it's no comparisons. He's a nice guy to have around, but coming off an injury-ridden rookie season, how much could you count on him? I'd rather have some more insurance in that position.
I'm relatively high on Justin Sternad, but I agree with you on that 100%. He was an injury case coming into the league, and then first year in the league, that injury case only gets worse. So you can't count on him. You do have to have insurance policies, contingencies in place. So if you swing and miss on Levante, or if he ends up just re-signing with Tampa, doesn't even want to test the market, you got to bring someone in that can offer you something similar to what he brings to the table. And you know what? If you do bring someone in like that in the draft or in free agency, you're probably going to have to be the draft, and Sternad ends up staying healthy, suddenly you'll have two guys that can, check that box and be that athletic sideline to sideline guy that might be able to actually cover a tight end in the AFC West. So I really like Sternad, and I think he's got a ceiling, but up to this point, Zach, it's just been one catastrophic injury after another.
The thing is, Sternad's ceiling is here, so to speak, and Micah Parsons' ceiling would be here. And I want that guy in the building with the higher ceiling. And in the Vic Fangio defense, if they retain Von Miller, you put a guy like Micah Parsons, that level of talent, in between Bradley Chubb, in between Von Miller. I mean, that's the ultimate scenario for a Denver defense that hasn't covered a tight end, Chad, in half a decade now.
Yeah, and, they haven't had it easy. I mean, for all those years, you had Tony Gonzalez, then you had frickin' Antonio Gates. Now you got Travis Kelce, you've got freaking Darren Waller, and even Hunter Henry's no slouch, but nevertheless, it's a burden that the Broncos have to be willing to meet. And up to this point, they've gotten by with, Scotch tape, some toothpicks. Here's Kenneth on MHH staff. He says, Sternad had the speed to track down Lamar Jackson in college, but can he stay healthy? That's the question, man. That is the question that only time will tell here. All right, let me see here real quick, Zach. John, before we jump to the next super, let me just get an eye on what the order is here so that you and I are on the same page. It looks like, so we got Fat Cats, and then we got Tyler, Muhammad, and then I have Cop 16. So we need Tyler and Muhammad if you can get those queued up. In the meantime, let's grab Cop 16. Appreciate you, my friend. Make sure you connect with us on Twitter if you have not. Oh, it's Savage Boy Kev. All right, sick, dude. Coming over from Twitch, supporting the cause on YouTube, on Super Chat. That's a mile-high salute to you, my dog. We really appreciate that. Thank you, Kev. He says, if we get if we get the Drew play from the Panthers game all season, what do you guys think the Broncos record would be? That's including, having a Caleb Farley, Nandy Dalton as a backup, Von Miller back, Shelby back, Simmons back, and again, Savage Boy Kev on Twitch. Thanks, my friend. That's really cool. So if you got that version, if you got the Houston Drew and the Carolina Drew on a week-in, week-out basis, dropping dimes, putting up points, scoring touchdowns, dude, I'm telling you, that's a double-digit win season for you, especially if you bring back all those guys you just mentioned.
Or even the Week 17 Drew, who that might have been his finest, cleanest performance in a Broncos uniform. Or even the New England game Drew, where he was hurt by receivers dropping multiple touchdown passes. He had more flashes of brilliance than people want to let on. And I'm right there with you, Chad. If they would have gotten above average to good quarterback play paired with that defense and having those players and having no injuries, and this is what we're talking about. They're not excuses. They are facts. And all these things hurt the Broncos and hurt Drew Lock. You take those equations away, those circumstances, that is a 9-10 win team, which, Chad, you and I predicted going into the season. We both had them being a playoff team. So those other third-party circumstances could not be foreseen.
Quick shout-out here to David Bingaman. Some of you, those of you who are active in our comment section at milehighhuddle.com, and if you're not active in our comment section, get on that. What's holding you back? Sound off. We want your takes. But Denver Cool on our comment section at milehighhuddle.com. Just shout out to you, David. Appreciate your dedication and your contributions to our community. All right, let's grab here Tyler, rapidly becoming a bona fide superstar. I think you've arrived on that, Tyler. So thank you, my friend. Welcome. It's been so great to get to know you a little bit here in these chats, and we appreciate your support. He says, what are the odds we draft an offensive tackle in the first 3 rounds? we need one with Juwan James being Juwan James. If we do, what round and who do we get? I think trading back into round 1 for Darrisaw from Virginia Tech should be looked into. Much love, hashtag Denver Broncos for life. So offensive tackle is a low-key need for the Broncos, and it's not just because Juwan James's, lack of reliability. It's because your 2 key backups from last year that stepped in and stopped the gap when he opted out are both free agents, right? DeMar Dotson and Elijah Wilkinson. Now, you guys know Zach and I, we're no fans of Elijah Wilkinson as a tackle. We like him as a guard. We're not stoked on him as a tackle, but nevertheless, they're at least both he and Dotson, Zach, were experienced veteran backups that could, step in there and at least be competent most of the time, especially Dotson. But we don't know what's going to happen there. So offensive tackle is a low-key need. If you take one, where, and I can pull up some rankings on, on the tackles that make sense.
I don't have a specific name in mind, but if I had it my way, my ideal draft for the Broncos would be to go cornerback, inside linebacker, and tackle in the first 3 rounds. Those are addressing the 3 biggest glaring needs you have on the roster right now. I know they might double dip at cornerback. They might take a safety. They might take a defensive lineman. They can go in many different directions, but offensive tackle, like you said, a low-key need, not a high-key need, not a first-round need, maybe not even a second-round need, but definitely a need. You don't want to leave yourself exposed to the Jake Rogers, the Calvin Andersons. You don't want to sign DeMar Dotson off the scrap heap. You want a young guy you can build around and someone that Mike Munchak can mold. All it takes is one Garrett Bowles injury, then what do you do? A Juwan James injury, then what do you do? Or a Juwan James whatever situation, then what do you do? For far too long, the Broncos have been bare in the cupboard at offensive tackle. This is a situation where they can't wait until the 5th or 6th, 7th round, an undrafted free agent. They have to use one of their premium picks in the first 3 rounds to address right tackle.
So a few options that I know, if we keep it, because we never try and steer you guys wrong. All right. We end up getting much more wise on the draft classes each and every year once we get into the off season, and that process has begun for Zach and I, but we're never going to lie to you and try and pretend like we are NFL draft experts. That's not what we do. All right. That's why we bring on guys who that is their expertise. That is all they do. Like Eric, Nick, Luke, Lance, Carl, that's all they do. Let me throw a few names at you real quick. This is from Eric Trickle. All right. 5 offensive tackles. All right. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw this video on the website and at milehighhuddle.com. Well, I'll do a quick share screen so we can all eyeball this real quick. Bear with us 1 second here. But here are the names that Eric likes, and they're, kind of 2nd, 3rd round range, which is about where I like it. That's kind of the sweet spot for me, Zach, if you're going to take an offensive tackle is, day 2 at some point, day 2. He likes Alex Leatherwood from Alabama, Jackson Carman from Clemson. I'm going to butcher this dude's name, Daniel Fa'alali, Minnesota. Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. And then Spencer Brown, he's the big 6'8" guy. Now, this was published long before the Senior Bowl. But this cat here, Spencer Brown, Northern Iowa, that's he was one of the stars of the week at the Senior Bowl, Zach, was Spencer Brown. So Eric's been eyeballing him out of the crowd at small school Northern Iowa for months now. So those are 5 guys to keep an eye on. Those are some names for you, rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah, Daniel, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. He has some name recognition. He could be a 3rd-round choice. Alex Leatherwood, to me, has the most name recognition. I think he's the most polished tackle among that group. I just don't think he'll make it to round 3, where the Broncos, in my scenario, where they would look for that tackle. But any one of those 5, Chad, if they solidify the position, I'd be pretty much happy with.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, let me see. This is a good time to do it before we get too much farther, because oftentimes we get so consumed and engaged with the questions in the chat that we sometimes forget to actually grab some of the content that we wanted to touch on. I'm sure a lot of – hey, what's up, Jeffrey? Appreciate you. I'm sure a lot of fans are wondering about this Colin Cowherd thing, because that's kind of how we titled the episode. So let me grab that real quick. We'll dive right back into the mailbag. But here is what – Here's the title, all right? Drew Lock slammed by Colin Cowherd again. He's the, quote, he's the 5th best quarterback in his division. Now, let me get into this a little bit, all right? So Colin Cowherd, first and foremost, I want to remind everybody, I mentioned this at the top of the show, but Colin Cowherd is the guy that went out. He was, Zach, like one of two people I can think of in the national perspective, literally from even before he entered the draft, that had anything positive to say about Drew Lock, right? An overall positive evaluation on Drew. And so it was noteworthy. This time last year, he was flexing and going to bat for Drew and beating down ESPN reports that said, or PFF reports, I should say, that said that even Drew Lock's mom wouldn't draft him in the first round. Cowherd was going to bat for Drew over stuff like that. He was actually battling people in the media landscape over Drew Lock. Then, of course, he makes his big, bold prediction that Drew's going to be the big pop guy in 2020. Well, injures that shoulder in week 2, and that's all it took, right? It was 4 1/4 of another quarter, so let's just say 5 quarters, and then he's off that train saying, I'm off Drew. He tries to be the cool kid and all this stuff. We can all remember this because we went over it in depth last fall. Here's what he said on his show on Wednesday about Drew. Quote, and this is him vibing off of the Michael Lombardi report that from the day prior on the Pat McAfee show, talking about how the Broncos almost made a trade for a quarterback last week and that they're off Lock. They believe Lock's not the guy. That's why they're so active on the veteran market. So there's a few sections of this, Zach, that I want your take on. Quote, he ain't it, as the kids say. Too casual, just doesn't play with enough urgency. He played AAU basketball, a little too cool for the room, and that's cool guys don't win in this league. Baker tries to be too cool. Johnny Manziel tried to be too cool. Cam Newton sometimes was more worried about being cool. Don't be cool, be urgent. Be kind of a dork. Like every play matters. Drew Lock doesn't play with that kind of urgency. He lets too many balls go that you just wouldn't throw in high school. Just not good enough throws. So he's done. But it's now official. Denver is looking for a quarterback now. Zach, your thoughts to that, and I want to grab 2 other things he had to say.
Well, first of all, I mean, where do we start? As a blanket statement for Colin Cowherd, he is a poser. I mean, to the literal degree, he is the type where he had a fidget spinner as soon as they became in fashion and then threw it away when it wasn't, Chad. He hops on every single fad. As some comment pointed out just now, he was among the people championing for the year of Drew Lock when that was fashionable. When Drew Lock going into his first full season, his second season, he could have been something. He could be the next, the next Josh Allen, the next Lamar Jackson, the year of Lock. That was fashionable then, so he hopped on that train. Now this offseason, considering that it wasn't the year of Drew Lock, he wants to hop off that train because that's fashionable as well. He wants to get on the he ain't it. What does that even mean? Be a dork. In football terms, that doesn't make any sense. Is Patrick Mahomes a dork? Is Aaron Rodgers a dork? He mentions Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield just led the Browns to the divisional round of the playoffs. I mean, I would take that level of play. Baker Mayfield played really good ball this year. Colin Cowherd, has specific boxes he likes to fit people in because it suits his ratings and it suits what's best and what's hot at the moment. He, as Malcolm Brown says in the comments there, he's a clickbait specialist. And Ernie Mass says he's poser status. He is the definition and the epitome of a poser, and that's all he ever will be. There is no original bone in his body, Chad. And whether it comes in politics or sports or everyday life, I don't respect anyone who doesn't stick with what they believe in. And I don't respect anyone who doesn't speak to their own values and stand by their convictions. I've gotten so much blowback, as have you, for standing by Drew Lock and not advocating for a Deshaun Watson trade. I am never going to be a sheep. I am never going to be herded in the mob mentality mindset to oh, you're supposed to think this way, you're supposed to think that way. I'm going to stand for what I believe in no matter the pushback. Someone like Colin Cowherd cannot do that because they cannot stand to be real with themselves, and that comes out every single day with comments like these.
Word. Well said. Here he goes on, quote, what's really happening in the NFL right now, it used to be when you were a quarterback, you came into the league and you got one shot. Drew Brees was the exception. If you got hurt or you didn't work, it was over. It's all done now. You do get a second chance now. Carson Wentz is going to get one. Sam Darnold's going to get one. I think Jameis Winston is going to get one. Cam Newton got one. Marcus Mariota, I think, is going to get one. Ryan Tannehill got one. So why is that happening now? Why do quarterbacks get a second chance? There's 2 things. A, it's just a more transactional league. There's more trades made all the time, and quarterbacks, like everybody else, can be moved. Number 2 is it's a bigger business than ever, more money than ever. GMs and coaches are just less patient. So they're just going to move off you. It doesn't mean the league is going to move off you. It means your team is more willing to quickly move off you. And with this influx of terrific young college quarterbacks ready to play, teams roll the dice more. Joe Burrow walked in with a bad O-line and a bad team, and we knew by the second week at halftime, the dude can play.
He was the number 1 overall pick. How do you compare the two?
Drew Lock, I thought he was interesting for about 5 or 6 or 7 starts. Now we got 18. The dude can't play in this league. He won't get a second shot. There's an old rule in the NFL. I've said this multiple times. You can't have the 4th best quarterback in the division. If you do, you got to move off him. So in the AFC West, Mahomes is number 1, Herbert is number 2, Carr is number 3, Drew Lock is not number 4. Marcus Mariota, the backup to Carr, is better than Drew Lock. So Drew Lock is the 5th best quarterback in his division. It doesn't work that way. You got to move off him. Nothing against the kid, but 18 starts. He's too casual, too many picks. He's just not buttoned up. You got to move off him. Close quote.
Because you say so, Colin, right? He mentions Marcus Mariota. Didn't he just reference in the previous paragraph a guy like Marcus Mariota not getting one more shot, and that's a better quarterback based on what? Because he came in for one fill-in performance and he looked decently well. He's better than Drew Lock. He talks about the money in the cap situation. It's another blanket statement because in this year, this cap situation, it's actually going down. So teams will be wanting pinching more pennies this year because of the pandemic. All he is saying there are all cliches, platitudinal nothings, just clickbait, anything he can think of. He's not buttoned up. He's not dorky enough. He's not nerdy enough. He's only going to get one shot. I've seen all I have to see out of 18 start. Who is he? Who is he? Is he the judge, the jury, executioner, Chad? Is he the all-knowing evaluator? Is he the ultimate pro football focus analytic? No, he's Colin Cowherd, a guy who's known for people dunking on him more than he's known for being right.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Well said. Well said. And guys, if you want my specific thoughts on this, go read the article. But one last thing I want to say is on the subject of second chances for quarterbacks suddenly being a modern phenomenon, BS. All right. Look at Jake Plummer. All right. Flamed out in Arizona. Broncos signed him, had a career resurgence. Right. Look at Kurt Warner. Wins it all. Greatest show on turf. St. Louis. Flames out. Goes to New York. Flames out. Goes to Arizona, and boom, it happens for him again. That was a third chance, dog. All right, I'm missing one. Who's oh gosh, who am I thinking? I had it in the article. Now I'm on the spot, and I can't remember who the other guy was. But go ahead.
There's someone random I'm thinking of, Chad Pennington. He ran out of New York. He won a division title with the Dolphins. I mean, there's so many examples you can keep naming, and it just makes him more and more wrong.
It's just a ridiculous Rich Gannon. That's what I was going to say. Now, Rich Gannon he was a little bit different because he was a journeyman to begin with, and he bounced around to so many different spots. And when he finally landed with John Gruden in Oakland, it was the right time, right place, and boom, he was ready to rock and roll. Isaiah says, Cowherd is a coward. Anybody that listens to this guy loses all credibility. Love the truth you guys speak. Keep it up, fellas. Hashtag MHH fan. Appreciate that, Isaiah. Let me grab this from Roger on Facebook real quick. He says, appreciate you, Roger, of course, one of our great supporters on Facebook. Will there really be an offseason? Will they have a preseason? All in the air, right? Yeah, right now that's very much up in the air. But I'm telling you right now, Zach, it's going to be an upset if there is a OTAs because as a member of the Pro Football Writers of America, I get put on all the press releases and email lists and Zoom calls with the NFLPA. They're angling hard, Zach, hard for no offseason. They are loving. It's not like they were, hoping for a pandemic so that they couldn't do the offseason. But one of the collateral benefits of the pandemic is now they have a viable reason that they know the owners will listen to get them out of having to report at any point during the offseason for on-field play. I'll be stunned if there's any version of OTAs this year. But I do think the owners, Zach, by the time you get to summer, I mean, I don't know, those of you who are on social media, I've been seeing a lot more like concert flyers through my timeline, the festivals, things like that. They're rebooked, like they're back on. And so I think and maybe that changes, right? It's a very fluid situation with this pandemic. Maybe that changes, but I think by the time you get to at least the dog days of summer, right, which is August, that's when the preseason traditionally is. I think there's a better chance that the owners are going to be able to have a leg to stand on the preseason, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, J.C. Treader, who's the Browns center and the NFLPA president, he said that he embraces virtual work. Roger Goodell said the virtual work is kind of like the short-term outlook for the future for the NFL. So I do think at least through the spring, it's going to be mostly virtual. We can maybe hope for a mostly normal training camp, but I believe they will leave that to the respective jurisdictions of each team, each city. You just mentioned, things opening up near you. That's different in another city, Chad. So red or blue, that's a whole other subject. We can hope by summer that we have some sense of normalcy, and then by fall, stadiums are full, fans are there, and we have the NFL that we all know and love back again.
Muhammad, MHH, male model, jumping in with the super sticker. What's up? It's good to see you, my friend. Looking good. Thanks, as always. Real quick, Dave, I know you had to like and leave. You'll check this stream out later, but I can't remember if it was a mug, hat, or T-shirt, whatever it was you won from the Huddle Up Pod Facebook page, but it has shipped. So you should be seeing that in the next couple of days. And by the way, when you get that piece of swag, Dave, make sure you send us a selfie, flashing it, flexing it. We'll put it out on our social media. Appreciate you, dog. All right, let me see what else we got here. Good to see you, Miller707. Hope you're doing well as well, my friend. All right, here's Drew Hollenbeck. Love you, bro. Bonafide superstar. Drew, this is a guy, Zach, that's never been on the show. You should come on the show. All right, if that's something you'd be into, reach out to us. You know how to connect on Twitter or send us an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and we will arrange it, set it up, make it work. We'd love to get a chance to talk with you. He says, Cowherd disrespected Locke? Shocker. He flip-flopped on Locke literally every week. Also predicted Denver as a wild card team this year, meaning 2020. Yeah, I mean, he's I think the vehemence and the venom that you're getting from Cowherd the last 6 months on Drew, Zach, is in direct proportion to his embarrassment, all right, of predicting Locke to be the pop guy, and it doesn't come true. And it's not because, you're so wrong, Colin, on Drew being the pop guy, be ashamed, eat your crow. It could have happened if he doesn't injure his throwing shoulder and lose what modest momentum he had from a completely weird, truncated offseason and a very weird and truncated training camp. Maybe he does end up becoming the pop guy. I doubt it based on what we ended up seeing, but still, that's really, Zach, what shifted for Drew in 2020 was that injury against the Steelers in week 2.
Nothing worse than a flip-flopper. Again, own it. Don't sit on the fence. Don't constantly change how you feel because of the other blue check marks on Twitter and the whole, the mob mentality, what the sheep are telling you to think and what to say and how to feel. He was predicting the year of Drew Lock. He was predicting him as an MVP, but that was fashionable at the time. Now his media cohorts are saying the Broncos are a decent team with a bad quarterback, top 5 bottom quarterback in the NFL. The stats tell me, the analytics tell me, other people tell me, and he's just glomming onto that. He's the kid who's saying, pick me, I want to play, pick me, I'm cool too. It's like he admitted that, Chad. He wants people to be more dorky when there's no one more dorky because he's projecting than Colin Cowherd.
Mark Aguirre on YouTube says the Saints should be cutting Quan Alexander for cap space. The Broncos need to get Quan Alexander. I'm not big on Quan. Like, I was okay a few years back when the Niners landed him as a free agent. What was that, Zach? 2019, I think it was. I mean, that's how quick he flamed out there. I know it was a short-term deal. I don't remember the exact deets on it, but I'm not huge on him anymore. And without looking him up and getting reminded of his exact age and looking at some of his analytics and stats from last year, I'd be a little leery on, hanging your hat on Quan being the problem solver at linebacker. Levante, right? I don't even have to think about it. If he's what's up, Mark? If he gets into flirts into the Broncos orbit, you got to try and land him.
If it's not Levante David, I'd rather the Broncos invest those resources through the draft, get younger. He would be cheaper, whoever they would draft in that spot. And, they have 2 veterans already. They have Jewell. They have A.J. Johnson. They, even Sternad's coming into his second season now. It wouldn't hurt them if they want to prioritize a rookie or a young player. Quan Alexander, like you mentioned, his star was shining briefly, but that kind of flamed out now. If not Levante, I want a rookie at inside linebacker.
Yeah, so this question from Robert, yes, in case you guys missed it, the Colts traded for Carson Wentz. So thank goodness that he is off the table. Like that's a that's a bullet dodged. If for any Denver Broncos fans out there, like, just be glad that's off the table. There's no temptation. It's off the table. I can't remember, what was it? A third and like a condition.
Second and a third.
Could be a first depending on how well he does over there. So, yeah, that's off the table. That's the second quarterback domino to fall this offseason.
Notice, though, the conditional pick was for next year. They couldn't even get a conditional, second or first this year. So that says a lot about Carson Wentz's value. But now, Chad, it seems like Broncos country has moved on to another quarterback, any quarterback that has any semblance of availability. I think you and I were both asked on Twitter, any response to the rumors about the Broncos trading for Kirk Cousins? And it's like, come on, just because of the Minnesota ties, because he's a quarterback, not every guy is going to be bound for Denver. Not every guy deserves to be tied or speculated to be involved in Denver talks. Thank God Wentz is off the table, Chad, but I don't think he was ever really a realistic option for the Broncos this year.
Dude, Kirk Cousins has shown you what he is, gang. He's shown you what he is, all right? The McVays, the Shanahans, the Stefanskis, the Kubiaks, could only get him so far. He hits that ceiling. The stats are there. You'll get the stats. But when the chips are down and you need that drive, or you need him to be that tide that raises all ships, sorry, he's not going to be that guy. Simon, really appreciate that generosity, my friend. Yeah. And also, it was cool to see you hop on Twitter and connect with us there. So look for us shouting you out tonight. We really appreciate that generosity up there north of the 49th parallel in Canada. He says, hello all. We all know the need at corner, inside linebacker, right tackle. How early should the Broncos go for a safety? I have a vision of the next Jamal Adams playing besides Simmons. Is this a need or not? Is it worth a second to third round pick? I learned so much from you guys. Love what you do.
Thank you.
Hey, we love you too, Simon. Thank you, bro. There's a couple guys that would be interesting there, but it all, to me, Zach, depends on, you want to talk about dominoes. How do the dominoes fall on the Simmons front, and how do they fall on the Kareem front? All right. The Broncos could conceivably move on from Kareem Jackson between now and March 17th when the new league year begins. If that happens, safety suddenly, depending on third domino, what do you do with Will Parks? Right. Depending on how that all comes together, by the time you get to the draft, if it's a need, then yeah, safety, you're looking at safety in one of the premium rounds. And the premium rounds, first, second, third. All right, the guy that I know, it's universal at MHH from all the draft guys, Richie Grant. Yep. There are some other guys that are out there, Zach, that are worthy of consideration in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and including JOK, who we talked about a little while back. That's kind of a hybrid safety tweener. You might be able to utilize him better as a safety. There are some options out there, but again, before we can say it's a need, we need to see how the free agent dominoes fall.
We can safely assume, though, they're going to bring back at least Simmons or Kareem Jackson. They're not going to get rid of both safeties. So if they do lose a starter, it obviously becomes more, of a pressing need. But there are free agents out there. If they lose to Simmons, they have Anthony Harris from the Vikings. They can sign him. Like Chad said, it's hard to predict the draft before the open market opens and all these different moves are made. It would be a need. I don't know really how high they would take that player, a safety in the draft, considering their need to cornerback, inside linebacker, tackle, even running back, Chad. They have needs all over the roster. I happen to believe, though, if they lost a Simmons or if they lost a Kareem Jackson, they would take a safety in the first 4 rounds because they would have confidence that Vic Fangio, knowing what he did with Simmons himself being a third-round pick, he doesn't need a first-round caliber prospect. He can mold a third or fourth rounder into a starting caliber safety.
Our friend Zach, a.k.a. Burn the Guitarist.
Great name.
You've got some swag coming your way as well, my friend, that has shipped as well. I think it was a T-shirt, so be looking for that. And, hey, again, we appreciate it. You send us a selfie when you get that swag, and we'll vault you. He says, hey, guys, I'm just happy that Denver officially avoided the one starting quarterback who had a worse year than Locke, Carson Wentz. Amen. And, Zach, real quick, before you riff off that, Joel on YouTube, I want to grab this. It's worth it. All right, let's
please. I saw this earlier. I want to.
Zach was calling for Garrett Bowles' starting job for being horrible within the first 2 years of his career, but would give Locke all the time in the world to prove he deserves the starting job. So
wrong.
Schmaug, do your thing.
Wrong on multiple counts. First of all, Garrett Bowles got 3 years to prove his worth. He got all fair starting opportunities. There was no pandemic. There was no of these rash of injuries. The offensive coordinator changes didn't really, amount to much for him specifically as it would for Drew Lock. And he now also the last couple seasons had the best coach in the business. It'd be like having Andy Reid call the plays for Drew Lock. So that point is wrong in itself. The second point there, I'm not giving Lock all the time in the world. I've said this, and I'll say this for the millionth and number one time now. If he does not pan out this season, I will be on here, guys. I will start with a monologue saying I was wrong. I will get an actual crow. Peter, don't come after me, and I will eat it on camera if I am wrong about Drew Lock. All I want him to do is be given a fair shot to sink or swim on his own. Because say what you want about him last year, that was not a fair opportunity. And someone like Garrett Bowles, he had fair opportunities. He sank on his own. The holding penalties, the sacks allowed, the technique, the unsportsmanlike chat, that was all on him. That was squarely on him. And he rebounded and became one of the best players, if not the best player at his position. And I was right here saying I was wrong about Garrett Bowles. I was wrong, and his supporters were right. We both did the same thing, Chad, and I will do that in reverse if I'm wrong about Drew Lock, but you can't compare the two. It's apples and hand grenades. I just want to see Lock get one full year with continuity, no injuries, his full supporting cast, and hopefully good coaching. If he still bombs after that, I will be wrong. But until then, I am not.
And guys, there's a big difference, all right, in terms of we're not sitting here saying Broncos need to stick with Drew because he's going to be Josh Allen next year. We're not predicting that. What we're saying is you've gone this far, all right? The kid, let's face it, this hasn't been a traditional first 2 years in the league for him as a quarterback. There have been so many mitigating factors outside of his control that whether you think he's not it, I'm saying like pretend I'm on the inside and I'm in the Broncos front office. Whether I think he's it or whether I think he's not it, there's not enough of a solid body of work, considering all the factors, to know for sure either way. But what we do know for sure, all right, is this. You've put in the TLC. You've invested in him from time to coaching, to scheme, to specific draft picks that were made to build the nest around Drew. You're going to suddenly throw that away on the heels of just the weirdest NFL season in the history of humanity, all right? You don't know yet. And so if you hadn't already come this far, okay, all right, I'd be probably a little bit more understanding to those of you out there that are saying, dump Drew, it's over, we know. If you're Colin Cowherd and you're using absolutes to say Drew ain't the guy, I would maybe get there with you a little bit closer anyway than I am right now, but you don't know. And meanwhile, it's not like this kid has come in and been, I can't even say – it's not like he's come in and stunk up the joint. That's the best thing that I can say. He hasn't been like horrendous with zero silver lining, zero signs for optimism. He has flashed promise. He has flashed potential. James Palmer talked about his last 4 games. I take it a step farther. It was week 11 on last year. He won 4 of his first 5 in 2019. All right. There's some there. All right. He's got 2 very, very productive games where he went over 300 and 7 touchdowns in those 2 games combined. There has been some there. So it's not like you're completely unfounded if you think, you know what, we've gone this far. We put in the time. If we're going to get a return, we're right on the cusp. And all of a sudden you squander that. You walk that desert. You took the pain that it takes. Anytime you make an investment, Zach, let's say you want to go to the gym, you want to build your body. You got to go through the pain. You got to go through the work. All right. You got to pay the price. And then you get the reward. Right? No risk it, no biscuit. Well, all the Broncos have done up to this point, Zach, is risk it. Now you're telling them right when the biscuit's about on the tip of their tongue, whoop, nope, boom, throw it out here. We're going with a donut instead. You're like, whoa, what did I just work for? Right? What did I just invest in? What was all this time? Now, again, if Drew had been, Zach, a complete and utter just tank, complete bust from the get, it would make perfect sense. If we were talking about Paxton Lynch here, it's not even a conversation.
Right.
But we're not.
Exactly. And, the thing about the gym analogy, which is great, Chad, a lot of Broncos fans they've never, figuratively, guys, don't kill me, you've never stepped foot into a gym before and you want to pick up a 5-pound dumbbell and do 1 rep and be Arnold Schwarzenegger. It doesn't work that way. You have to put the time and the investment into every prospect, but especially quarterbacks and especially raw quarterbacks. I don't know how hard this is to understand. And the thing is with Locke, you just give him the opportunity. And the Garrett Bowles, this whole comment actually it strengthens my point because you invested that time in Garrett Bowles. You allowed patience to play out with him, and look what happened. He turned into the best left tackle in the NFL last season. I'm not saying Drew Lock is going to be, it's not a one-to-one. He's not going to be the best quarterback, but just give him some time. Just this season. It's all I'm saying. I'm not his agent. I'm not his father. I'm not his mother. I'm just using common sense and logic in a world, in a sphere where emotion runs rampant, Chad.
Dakota Marquez, appreciate that super chat, my friend. Make sure you connect with us on Twitter. He says, I saw a podcast that Kirk Cousins might be another target for an upgrade at quarterback. Thoughts? We touched on this a little earlier, not knowing that we had a super waiting on the subject. I'm not into it. I kind of already said why, but Zach, talk a little bit more about your thoughts on Cousins.
I just think he's a middling quarterback, and I think you said it best. He's had some of the greatest offensive minds around him, so it's like the antithesis of what Locke has been through in the NFL. And last year, the Vikings offense was not the issue. I've talked about this at length. It was the defense. It was injuries there. Gary Kubiak did a great job with Cousins, but like you said, when it boils down to it, he's never going to be the guy to get you over the hump. And you can't blame anything on his supporting cast. I mean, he had two of the best receivers in the NFL, arguably the best running back in the NFL, a good offensive line. He's just a middle-of-the-road guy. The Broncos had a chance to sign him in 2018. They passed. I don't think he's coming to Denver now, even with George Payton, and especially with that contract, Chad, he's only, I think, one season into.
I like him. Sure as heck don't love him. And I'm not moving mountains to get Kirk Cousins here. That's been there, done that. Like,
has anyone ever said that though?
What?
Has that sentence ever come out of anyone's mouth? We're going to move mountains to get Kirk Cousins here. He's not that type of quarterback.
All right, John, real quick. So I've got Base Gase, and then we got Josh, Shadow, Isaac, Michael, Cop again, Jim, Rogue, Dakota, and then Roger. I've got Roger, so there's a few in there. So just let me distill that a little bit better. We need Josh, Isaac, and Michael for now. Meantime, let me grab Base Gase. Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. He says, odds makers have the Broncos at plus 150 to land Watson. Thoughts? And don't let Colin live rent-free in your minds. He's just a hot take artist. Very true. He's not living rent-free
from my mind. Yeah, he ain't rent-free. He's being evicted. But the thing about Deshaun Watson, I'll take it real quick, Chad. A lot of fans, for hopeful reasons, put a lot into Vegas odds. Vegas also goes by the latest reports and rumors, and they saw the Lombardi thing. They saw Wentz is on the move now, so that's one team down for his services. And, through it all, Denver has been, bandied about as a landing spot or as the landing spot for Deshaun Watson. That is why the odds are what they are now. But, whatever happens, happens. I still think it's unlikely, but we'll see.
Roger jumping in with a very generous super chat going from Facebook, a supporter, over to YouTube to super chat. We just love it, dude. And we love you. We appreciate you, my friend. He says, send in some extra love. Thanks for all you guys do. Hey, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Roger.
Appreciate you, dog. John's working on bringing up some of those that jumped in our chat here. So while he's working on that, let me pull up one or two cues here because we're at about 52 minutes. We can go a little bit over the 1 hour mark because it is the Mile High Mailbag. So give us just a few. Let me see what we got. Speaking of which, here's Chase Wellner. With Kirk Cousins' level of play, we'd be sitting decent with this team, but not worth paying Cousins in particular. If we got that from Locke last year, we'd be in the playoffs. I don't know. Sitting decent? Yeah, you would be sitting decent. But what does that mean? You're going to be 8-8, 9-7. Best case. Like, that's the ceiling. That's what Kirk Cousins has proven. If he's proven anything, is you're going to get 4,000 yards, Zach. You're going to get mid-20s in touchdowns and 8 or 9 wins.
You're saying something that I saw a comment that said, Zach, you think Kirk Cousins can't get you over the hump, but Drew Lock can. I've said this before about many different quarterbacks. We've seen what Kirk Cousins is in the NFL. We don't yet know what Drew Lock can be in the NFL. And that's what I'm saying. He's inconsistent. He was disappointing last year, but he's not a bust and he's not a franchise quarterback. We still don't know what he is. We know what Kirk Cousins is. He's a middle-of-the-road quarterback, a top 16 guy. I have faith that if Locke hits his ceiling, as does Chad, that Locke can be better than a top 16 quarterback. That is a difference.
And guys, the other difference is body of work. Hello. All right. Yeah. Sample size. Hello. Kirk Cousins has told you. He has screamed it to high heaven now. You know what he is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right. He's a middle-of-the-road NFL starting quarterback. I wouldn't even say top 15. I'd say he's that next tier, all right? That's what he is. And we can say that with relative authority because the sample size is great enough. With Drew, the sample size has only scratched the surface, and so you go off of the tools. You go off of the promise. You go off of what he has shown you that could, at any point on his trajectory, if there was anything you saw from him that led you to believe, yeah, he was worth that second-round pick, and there might be something there. He might be able to evolve into being the guy. He could become a franchise guy. We still haven't seen anything to dissuade you from that because the sample size is so small. Base Gase wants to know, and then we got Michael next. He says, Matt Milano, as a free agent, in free agency as our coverage linebacker, may be available, Zach.
He's going to be really expensive, though. I think he's going to get one of those. Who was the guy? Corey Littleton last year. The contract he got. It's going to be a little out of what I believe will be the Broncos' price range. They're going to have to take care of their own guys. They're going to have to pony up for Simmons and Shelby Harris, hopefully, and they have to make some moves in their own roster. Milano would be decent, but again, if you can't get Levante David, I am more than happy to allocate those funds to guys like Simmons or Harris and get that inside linebacker in the first or second round.
Dude, he only appeared in 10 games last year. 5 starts, 1 pick, 35 solo tackles, 3.5 sacks, though. He's more of an edge, dude. I don't know. He's an edge inside hybrid, but
yeah, he plays for Buffalo, so he's going to be overvalued on the open market just because of how good that defense is.
Definitely. Michael Cravanis jumping in. Excuse me. Good to see you, my friend. Really appreciate you. He says, Ricardo Allen, a cap casualty today, would be a great corner depth signing. 5th-round pick that's been a good pro. We need some value, guys, so that we can re-sign our own. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that as a depth guy, but, I'm kind of over the whole let's find the scrap heap of everyone else's former second, third, fourth, and 5th-round picks. Tried that with Devontae Harris. Tried that with Duke Dawson, right? Even Devontae Bosby was not a draft pick from someone else, but a guy that had been through other systems and kind of was out there. Like, I don't know. I think the time has come. If you're going to spend, you spend on a proven commodity or you go into the draft. And I think for the Broncos, it's all about the draft.
I was going to say, do you want a guy who was cut on February 18th from one of the worst defenses in the NFL? I mean, someone like Ricardo Allen, I could see him landing in Dallas with Dan Quinn as their coordinator now, but, would I cry if he was signed? No, but I'd rather, if they're going to go for a mid-tier free agent, Mackenzie Alexander, Mike Hilton, I'd spend a little more money than someone for Ricardo Allen, of all people.
All right, I have to do Joshua Shadow's super chat the reverse engineered way because our stream, for some reason, we can't find you in our stream. It jumps after a while, and then we can't go back up to where we were. Long story short, we're doing it the old-fashioned way. So, Joshua, thank you so much for that generous super chat, my friend. Also a supporter on Facebook. This is a guy that is just behind what we're doing here at MHH and helping to contribute to the very content everyone is enjoying right now. So thank you, Josh. He says, Albert O said something I liked about Locke. Quote, he's not listening to the noise. He's just trying to get better. So if we run with Locke and you could choose anyone, who are you bringing in as a backup / mentor / failsafe? Hey, man, that's a good question. By the way, Joshua, where did you get that? Oh, there he is. Thank you. Where did you get that quote from Albert O? If you wouldn't mind, DM me a link to that when you get a second, or shoot me an email or Facebook me, whatever. Send me the link where you saw that. Okay, I want to look into that. But who would you bring in as that backup mentor failsafe?
I'm on record, and I think you agree with me. Among the options, I mean, who are you really looking at here? You have Andy Dalton. You have someone like Nick Foles. These are all free agents, not someone you can trade for. And you have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Among that group, and there's a few others in there, I would like Andy Dalton. I think he's gotten kind of a bum reputation around the NFL. He's never going to be, a Peyton Manning, a 10-year franchise quarterback, but if for a bridge or for a mentor or a failsafe, you can do a lot worse than Andy Dalton. If something were to happen to Locke or he bombs this season and they want to remain competitive, he can help you remain competitive. He wouldn't break the bank chat. He wouldn't bring controversy. He's as steady of a player as they come on the open market, and that's why I'd want Andy Dalton in a Denver uniform next year.
All right, we got Isaac Mitchell in the hizzy. Appreciate you, bro. Really good to see you, and thank you for that generosity. keep it coming, keeping the support. You are becoming, and you're a superstar in the community, and we really appreciate you. And it's been great getting to know you. He says, "What's up, guys? It's been a minute since I've caught one live. It's really great to see you. And like I said, man, stick around. You know the schedule, and it's interesting, Zach, because I do get questions from we get it in the chat every night as far as whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Hey, I'm finally able to catch a pod live, right? Well, guys, it's clockwork, 7 days a week at Mile High Huddle. You don't have to guess when the streams are going to be, all right? First of all, if you're subscribed on YouTube and you're liking and following on Facebook, your phone will beep you when we go live. But throwing that aside, let's pretend that doesn't happen. You can set your watch, 6 p.m. Mountain to 7 p.m. Mountain, 7 days a week. There's a Mile High Huddle podcast live stream happening, all right? So I can't even think of the last time we skipped one. I think it was last summer we skipped one in honor of, what was that? Something just about the I can't remember what it was. One of the events that happened last summer. We did it as a show of solidarity, but nevertheless, it's rain, sleet, or snow, Zach.
I don't want to think about last summer, but it's just, we're always coming at you, and we have more and more shows coming out. We have Kelberman's Corner on Sunday afternoons. Like we keep teasing, we're going to keep, debuting these new programs, but we hope you're enjoying, Isaac, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Thank you for hanging in there tonight.
All right, Dakota, again, thank you, my friend. And then also, John, is Rogue Theory, and Cop 16 has another one touching on we'll just say the word Prescott is in that super chat. So, and then Jimmy. So you saw that. Anyway, Dakota, thank you, my friend. He says, I'd love to trade for Deshaun Watson, but I'm down for having Locke another season. Who knows? May surprise the world. Either way, still a diehard Broncos fan. Amen, dude. And that's the thing that unites us all in this endeavor, right? We might have differing opinions on this topic or this subject or this quarterback or this roster question, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like with Deshaun Watson, if they did make that trade, neither Zach or myself have been open advocates for that to happen. We're quite skeptical about what it would take to get him. But if he lands in Denver, of course we're going to close ranks, right? We're going to get behind it. We're going to say, all right, let's find a way to make this thing work. We just have our serious doubts that that's really going to be that game-changing move for the Broncos. Only not because Deshaun isn't a top-level quarterback. He is. It's just what it would cost, what you end up missing out on, and is he good enough to overcome the loss of what you end up giving up? That's where we have our doubts. Yeah, we have reservations that, again, a first-year GM like George Payton, who loves and values draft picks, everything he's ever known to stand on and the pillars of his morals have been about the draft and not making these reckless maneuvers. I just can't foresee him doing that in year one as John Elway's successor, but whatever happens, happens. If they do trade for him, I'll support it, and I hope he brings success to the Broncos. And something we haven't seen, Chad, since 2015, and that's a playoff appearance. Appreciate it, Josh, a.k.a. Rogue Theory, one of my fellow punk rock brethren out there in the audience. Love you, buddy. It's been great getting to know you, by the way, dog. He says, no questions from me. Just want to be a superstar. Dude, you're on your way. You're seriously on your way, and it's when I say this to anybody, I'm telling the truth. It's genuine, and that is, it's really been cool to get to know you, my friend, so keep it coming. Here's a point here from Denver 3. It says, Locke's ceiling is like a Kirk Cousins. Now, if you're just talking about, if you mean by that, Denver 3, like a second tier, top of the second tier type, just outside maybe the top 15 caliber, maybe, because we've said on this show before that we can kind of see Derek, or what the not from a tools or a traits perspective, but just kind of the caliber of quarterback that a Derek Carr is. We could see that as a potential ceiling for Locke. But one huge, massive difference between Drew Lock and Kirk Cousins is arm talent. All right. If Drew can put it together here and get the right coaching to help him put it together here, that dude's arm talent is among the best in the NFL. I'm not saying it is the best. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, from a pure arm talent perspective, that's the cream of the crop, in my opinion. And Drew, he has that kind of an arm, but He's got to get it between the ears.
I was going to say, from a production standpoint, I can see Kirk Cousins' numbers, but from a quarterback, technical standpoint, they're nothing alike. Kirk Cousins is way more game manager than he is gunslinger, where Drew Lock is way more gunslinger than game manager. The problem is that Pat Shurmur likes to play a gunslinger in a game manager's type role, and that's what you saw last year with Lock's struggles.
Jimmy jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend. That's a newer name on Super Chat, so welcome. Thank you. Connect with us on Twitter. Cowherd, the bandwagon. Y'all think we keep Vaughn? That's a good question. We touched on this the other night. I'm still very iffy, and until we know how this criminal investigation unfolds, and hopefully, knock on wood, it turns out to be unfounded and no charges come from it, but until we know that, I don't even feel comfortable giving you like odds or percentages, because it's just that's a factor that has to be, you can't get around it. Right? If he ends up getting charged criminally, goodbye, it's over probably. I mean, seriously, like 95%, that's a number I'll give you. If he gets charged with a criminal offense and he costs $17.5 million and he's 32 coming off an ankle that cost him a whole year, that's a pile you can't overcome, in my opinion, Zach.
But what criminal offense, though? We don't even know what happened. And I feel like if it was something serious, if it was a felony offense, we would hear more about it. It's been very buttoned up, and I happen to think, just to speculate a little bit, it was a domestic dispute that kind of went sideways, and it was resolved internally between Von Miller and his ex-fiancée, I imagine. But I tend to think if he was worried about being convicted, if he was facing a true felony, would he be on Instagram changing his captions to Denver Broncos for life? I'm a little more optimistic, I think, than Chad. I do think he will hang around. I do think it will come with a restructure or an extension, something to lower his cap hit, because after last year, they can't justify paying him, $19 million on the books this season. They have to lower that, but I have faith that Vaughn will be playing in Denver this season.
All right, we got Jay who says, all right, talking about Drew. So what is his ceiling? Be honest. All right, I'll tell you what this isn't anything new, and I don't mean to say this. I don't mean anything by that, Jay. But if you've not heard me say this before, I have said it many times. Drew's ceiling is something approximating Matthew Stafford circa 11 through 14. That version of Matthew Stafford, all right, that's the ceiling. Doesn't mean he gets there. Doesn't mean he fully realizes that potential. But if you take that Matthew Stafford, all right, that version, right, the guy throwing up dimes and throwing up those jump balls for Megatron, and the guy that was doing the sneaks across the goal line and making plays, right? Putting up volume, making plays. You put that guy in Denver right now, that guy, you can't go back in time. So this is obviously just, hypotheticals, but you put that guy in Denver, you're a 10-11 win team. That's the ceiling I can see. And it's, there's just no guarantee Drew gets there, but that's the top of the mountain, in my opinion.
I'm thinking rich man's version of Patrick Mahomes is Drew Lock's ceiling in the NFL. I said this last time, and I'll be a little more maybe on the realistic side for the Drew Lock haters. 2016 Derek Carr, which was a Pro Bowl quarterback for the Raiders. If you get a Pro Bowl quarterback in Denver with that defense and everything else, that would be a playoff team. So anywhere between that, though, Chad, whether it's 2016 Derek Carr or, when Matt Stafford was in his prime, if they get that level of quarterback, Chad, they will be back to relevancy very fast.
All right, let me see. John, just FYI, as I grab Michael here, there's one we're still missing from Comp 16 talking about Prescott. If that's in reach for you, I'm looking back. Yeah, we got everything else up to that point, and then I think I'm right on with Michael here. I am. Actually, no. So aside from that, we would need Seth Harmon, I Am Supreme, and then we're good. All right. Michael, thank you again, my friend. He says, worked with the Chiefs. They got corners to thrive off the scrap heap. All right. Just saying, can't fill it all in the draft. I feel you. Look, it's not that I'm diametrically opposed, you guys, to the Broncos trying to find good value signings out there on free agency, by all means. I'm just saying don't expect it to change the game, all right? Bryce Callahan, that's your only guarantee, and he's far from it, right, because of the injuries. When he's healthy, you're going to get upper echelon corner play. You're going to get top 5, top 10, especially at nickel. Besides that, you're banking on O.J. Mudia taking a step forward in year 2. and then it jumps off a cliff from there. You just nosedive. All right, so you got to find bona fide, forces to be reckoned with. And I just looking at what the market is. We've gone through this many times. We've opened up Spot Track for you guys. We've looked at who's out there. It's the draft, guys. It's Caleb Farley, Patrick Surtain, J.C. Horn. It's one of those guys early, which is why you need your first-round picks, guys. You freaking need your first-round picks because, Deshaun Watson showed you what he can do for you when he doesn't have a defense. What was it, Zach, 5-11?
4-12. So even better.
12.
He led the league in passing, and they went 4-12. And that's a whole other subject. But, someone like Ricardo Allen, you can try to find value signings, but again, it's not going to change, like Chad said, what they want to do this offseason. Even if they sign the best cornerback on the open market, which is Patrick Peterson, they would still draft Farley at number 9. They need help that badly in the secondary at safety and corner. So would I cry if Ricardo Allen was signed or Mike Hilton? No, but it's not going to change ultimately what I think the Broncos will do at number 9, which is keep adding to that position.
All right, there he is again. Thank you, my friend, Cop 16. Showing more love. Football Priest, hashtag Zach Prescott. You need the side profile to get the full Zach Prescott effect. There it is. There you go. All right, appreciate you, my friend.
Love it. Thank you, man.
Seth Harmon, there he is. Good to see you. Seth, are you on Twitter? Because every time I go to shout you out, I search and I think I know what your hand. Oh, I don't actually know if there's a Seth Harmon. So if you're on Twitter, connect. If you're not on Twitter, create an account, connect with us there. We like to keep the conversation going, keep tabs on our superstars, all right, on Twitter. He says, love the pod. Keep up the great work. Very sweet, my friend. Appreciate you. Talk about a superstar. George Vandermark. He's ride or die. He's MHH Mount Rushmore. And this is a guy, you want to talk about, putting 2020 behind you? This is a guy that has a real beef, with 2020. But he's new year, new me. He's rocking freaking Manscaped, right? He's one of the guys that jumped on that early, and he'll sing the praises. Ask him; he'll tell you. He's not a paid testimonial. This guy will tell you the truth on Manscaped. But I love you, George. It's good to see you, dog. Hope the family's doing well. Give our best to Jazz. He says, I stood by Bowles, and I'm sticking with Locke as well. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life.
I give you credit, George. I was off the Garrett Bowles train, and I'm eating crow for that now, but I am sticking by Drew Lock, and I will also eat crow if I'm wrong on that, as will Chad, but time will tell. We just want to see one more season play out.
All right, guys. I know there are a lot of questions in here still that we haven't been able to get to, but we are legit out of time, so we got to rapid fire these remaining superstars, and then we'll try and get to as many as we can on Sunday. And, of course, Kelberman's Corner, for those of you who are supporters, we do get to your questions there as well. Or I should say Zach and Kim get to your questions. I Am Supreme, 22, superstar. Love you, bro. How many games before deciding on Drew? I give him 6. I think you'll have a decent bead on Drew by 6 games, but I'm telling you, you just give him this one last year. You give him the season. And if he ends up flaming out hard early, and you got an Andy Dalton on the roster, and it's Vic Fangio's do or die season, I understand it. All right, if he gets hurt, and you got to move on, you got to turn the page. You got fish to fry. But I honestly think that he needs that full year in a perfect world. But as we know, the NFL is the farthest thing from a perfect world. So it's incumbent on Drew, if he does get the opportunity to run it back with the Broncos this year. This dude has to stay healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, all bets are off. If he stays healthy, I think Broncos fans are going to be pleasantly surprised, especially those who are skeptics. Zach, Josiah, Gerard, a newer name on Super Chat. So welcome. Appreciate you. As a Bronco fan for years, I would say that Vaughn is too old and hurt. The fact that he has been hurt way too much and missed too many games, it's time to get out of the Vaughn era, Zach.
I disagree with that. I think that Vaughn still has at least 2 to 3 years of high-level, future Hall of Fame level play in him, and the Broncos would be remiss to chip on that too early in the year of continuity, in the year of status quo for George Paton and the Broncos. He can still provide 10 to 12 sacks when he's healthy, and he was champing at the bit to get on the field last year. It's unfortunate. We were all excited about Von Miller coming back and in the Vic Fangio defense until he stepped wrong in practice and hurt his ankle. But what happened since then? I know he's overpaid. I know his cap number is high. If they can get a resolution there, as I think they will, Von Miller will provide a really good return on investment. That's how I feel about him.
Drew Love, a newer supporter on Facebook, also throwing out some love and some stars. Appreciate you, my friend. The Queen jumping in, throwing some support, as she is wont to do. Talk about a superstar. And by the way, Christy, we're getting to that point. It's about time to get you back on the show. You tell us when you can do it. Reach out to us. Let us know. We want to get you back on the show.
Yes. Thank you, Christy.
We love you. Got one here also from Hezbuster, who is a newer name on Super Chat. He says, great show tonight, man. Really digging Kelberman's Corner as well. So he's also a supporter. What's your Facebook? Hey, send us an email and do one of these and say, hey, it's Hezbuster, and on Facebook I'm this. I don't know what your handle is on Facebook. Most people usually use their real names on Facebook, so I'd like to be able to connect the dots there, just so I know who's who and give people their props and whatnot. So really appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
milehighhuddle@gmail.com, et cetera. All right, let me see real quick. We're about out of time here. Also, hey, shout out to Big Earn, dude. This guy, talk about ride or die. Big Earn, every single stream, Big Earn's in it, and he's DMing me if it's 3:45 Mountain Time and we don't have the stream already set up. This dude's going, hey, where's the stream, dude? So,
holding us accountable.
Let's go. So love that, Big Earn, and appreciate you, dog. All right, let me see. Bear with us here, gang. So much great engagement, conversations going on in the chat. I really wish we could just sit here all day and just riff off what you guys are.
One day we're going to have a marathon pod one day, Chad, for 24 hours straight. We're just answering questions nonstop and talking.
Yes, we'll make that happen. We can do that. We'll get some pre-workout like we did at the freaking combine and just go bat, crazy. All right, let me see here. Stand by. Here's Josiah. We got Josiah. Did we get everybody? Let me see. Hold on. Let me do the back end real quick. I think we might actually be current, so we got to get going here. Bear with me one second, guys. Sorry for the dead air here, but yeah, we're good. So, guys, thank you so much to each and every one of you for checking in with us here tonight on the Huddle Up podcast and giving us some of your time. We see the analytics on the back end, and so both on Facebook and YouTube. What's up on Twitch there, Vic? Good to see you. We see that the vast majority of listens that come on our podcast, and this is very atypical for YouTube live streams, Facebook live streams, the vast majority of people that click and listen for any period of time is well into the 2/3. That's the average. So most people, they're actually watching the whole thing, right? They're from A to Z. And then those who do dip in and dip out, it brings the average down to about 2/3. That's a really high number. We love you guys. We appreciate you for that. By the way, if you're one of our regular YouTube viewers and listeners, but you're not subscribed to Mile High Huddle on YouTube, dude, handle that. Follow us, subscribe, I should say, on YouTube. We're this close to crossing 10K. And when we do, we got a big, big, big surprise for the community, for the audience. So if you're one of those out there that it's funny because if you go onto YouTube, Zach, and just start typing Mile High Huddle, it's funny. I noticed this the other day because I was trying to find a specific video. So I start typing Mile High Huddle, and it auto pops. The first thing that it auto popped was Mile High Huddle live stream time. It's like, dude, just subscribe, and then you don't got to guess, right? Mm. So that's your PSA for today, boys and girls. Willie, good to see you. Hit the bell. Yep, you subscribe, and if you hit the bell, it's no big deal. Your phone buzzes when we go live or when we publish a new video, and you don't miss anything, all right? Yes, Christos, we do have plans to share the love of our VIP premium video content like Kelberman's Corner on YouTube as well. Might have a little something to do with the surprise we have in mind for our 10K milestone. So we are going to be offering and opening up a YouTube membership tier, all right? So that's going to be in the very near future. That's why, hey, guys, help us get to that 10K. The sooner that happens, the sooner all will be known in due time. But, guys, we got to go. So follow on Facebook. Remember the actual podcast account, facebook.com/milehighhuddlepod. Just open up the app and type in the pod name, Huddle Up Podcast. You'll find us. I'll put the link right now in the chat, and you can just click and make it super easy. The Twitter account, @HuddleUpPod, @MileHighHuddle, Zack Kelberman, @KelbermanNFL, myself, @Chad and Jensen, and then, of course, our great producer, Buona Beast. Hey, appreciate that.
That's cool. Appreciate you.
John K, MHH on Twitter. Check out the merch store. Subscribe, like, you know the drill. Zach, have a great weekend, bro. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you got cooking for Sunday's episode, which is episode 7 of Kelberman's Corner.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, Chad. Have a great weekend. Everyone out there, have a great rest of your Thursday. Have a great Friday. Have a great Saturday. We'll be back on Kelberman's Corner, which is noon Mountain. And then Chad and I will be back on 6 o'clock Mountain for the podcast on Sunday night. Take care, guys. Subscribe, like, and share. Support us. Help us get to 10K. I promise you, you'll be rewarded. Take care. Have a great weekend. As always, Mile High Salute. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.